Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Nick Nightingale. I would like to address the same exact issue that Mr. Laverty was talking about earlier. For those of you that did not read the letter to the editor by Trustee Michael Flynn, if you guys could, I'd appreciate if you put the television camera on Trustee Michael Flynn through my speech. But anyways, I'd like to go through the...
Hey, but you don't get to direct the TV.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm sure you do. I don't control
And
it.
it is on you.
Through the, he sent a letter into the editor, which was also posted online. It was a perfect example of how this board operates. This letter is a perfect example of the extreme lengths our elected township officials will take to intimidate, bully, any of those that go against their personal motives and interest. Flynn is right. We are in a recession. Our property values have plummeted. People are unemployed and underemployed. Flynn asked, what does this mean? It means lower revenues for governments. However, Flynn forgets to inform the general public that, in fact, it also means a larger effect on political campaign contributions from the normal individuals who normally donate. Now, this creates a situation for our local politicians to, hang on a second. This creates a situation for our local politicians to get creative in the type of individuals that they solicit for campaign contributions. Mr. Flynn goes on to say, I am like the party guest that refuses to go home at the end of the night. He also states, like most issues in politics, the real answer always comes back to money. At this point, I put down Mr. Flynn's letter to the editor and reviewed his campaign finances leading up to his term in office. After reviewing his campaign contributions, I found it quite funny that 66% of his donations to elect him into office as a representative of Shelby Township was funded by individuals whom live outside of Shelby Township. I found it hysterical that Mr. Vire, our township treasurer, funded 20% of his campaign to elect Michael Flynn into office, which leads me up to the point that Mr. Flynn states, why would a towing contractor care about a rezoning issue? He forgets to tell the general public that I am a lifelong Shelby Township resident. Unlike himself, he is a short-term Shelby Township resident. He also forgets to mention that this specific rezoning was indeed investigated by the Macomb County Sheriff's Department. It is quite possible that Trustee Flynn did not realize the previous planning commission turned down the rezoning property, which included a much smaller amount of the property. But after the new supervisor, Richard Stathakis, took office, he had appointed 4 new commissioners to the planning commission, not including Mr. Vire, whom already sat on the planning commission. After that, miraculously, the developer had all the votes he needed to rezone the entire property, not just the smaller part that he wanted to rezone before. Through my research, I found huge donations from the developer and his associates. By associates, I mean including but not limited to his attorney. This particular attorney is an individual that has had Mr. Vire's favorable votes in every matter he has presented to this board since the early 90s. Honestly, I could be wrong, but I cannot find one issue where Mr. Vire voted against this specific attorney. My main concern in Trustee Flynn's letter is how far some of our local politicians will go to silence people like me. On top of all the defamation of character and slanderous material of myself and my family by some members of this board, I now have Michael Flynn comparing me to a wolf in his letter. He claims that I am a wolf that previous boards and some current board members are willing to feed to the taxpayers as long as I promise to eat them last.
30 seconds.
Towing services in this township create revenue for taxpayers. It's never been the other way around. I am sorry to tell you, Trustee Flynn, the party is over. The balloons are popped. We're all out of cake and ice cream. I hope you go back to Rochester because I do not believe residents of Shelby Township can afford to have another politician like yourself that is looking out for yourself and your own interest come into Shelby Township and try to run as a full-time Shelby Township politician.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to state
that's-
for the record, those things that I just stated in this letter about slanderous material, I have never,
Captain,
to this
can you please
day,
remove him
I
right
have not
That is
filed
it.
any
Captain,
lawsuits
can you
against
please
this
remove him right
township
now?
or any individual on this board.
Order. Captain, please remove him. Thank you very much. Captain, please remove him. Okay. Okay, that's good.
Mr. Chairman,
Out.
So he doesn't need to play that. He, as long as he's played, it's a meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, everyone's got 5 minutes, and let's cut the emotion. I mean, you want to get emotional, that's fine. But when your time's up, you just simply have to leave. And I think everybody, most people in here understand that, and I really appreciate that. But for those, and especially the one who just got up here, this is not their first time this has happened, and that is it. I want you out of here. Okay, thank you. I just want to thank everybody, though, for their patience. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flynn.
I'd like to thank Mr. Nightingale for his very spirited remarks. I've lived in Shelby Township for 12 years. I don't consider that short term, but to answer Mr. Nightingale's question, in America, Mr. Nightingale does not get to govern a township by birthright. It doesn't matter if you were born here or not. Every citizen is welcome to move in and out of Shelby Township at will and participate in our government as they see fit. You forgot also to mention about my campaign financing. Yes, I am not a rich man. I accepted donations. That never buys my vote. And he also failed to mention that I financed the majority of my campaign myself. And then finally, in regard to my column, I stand by every word of it. And I have never had a more positive response from the members of the public than from that column. I have never had more citizens contact me than over that column. So I will let the people of Shelby Township decide what Mr. Nightingale's true motivations are, and we will let the chips fall where they may. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you,
Mr. Chairman, I also would like to say that I was, Mr. Nightingale spoke of my votes, I presume, in the early 90s. I was elected or took office in 2000, I believe. So I don't know what the heck he's talking about. So, but that goes along with a lot of things that he's mentioned at the podium. So it's not unusual.
Tension between Portland's mayor and city manager coming to a head tonight. The city council held a workshop to determine exactly what the responsibilities of the mayor should be. City manager John Jennings accused Mayor Ethan Strimling of not trusting him or the city council. The exchange between the two was getting testy at times.
I make a request to the city manager. He responds whether or not he's going to help. Then it goes to a staff person, comes back to him, comes back to me. If I have a follow-up question, it must go to him, must go back to the staff person, back to him, back to me. That is not normal communication.
Unless you agree with him 100% of the time, he will keep coming after you. And I would say that most members of this council have experienced this treatment. He will come at you. He will keep coming at you until such time where you stop answering. And then he thinks that you agree with him.
Tonight's meeting lasting for several hours.
Thank you, Mayor Himmelberg. On your capital leases, what are we going to, any idea what we're going to do with the phones, seeing that they're not making anything for them anymore?
You mean the old phones?
Well, these new Toshiba ones that we bought.
What do you mean they're not making anything for them?
Isn't that what the email says? From Toshiba saying that they're going out of business and not making parts for our new systems, and
No, that's a brand new system.
I'll forward you the
Technology Assurance Group, President Brian Seworth. Dear valued customer, we regret to inform you that as part of the continuing global restructuring of Toshiba Corporation,
has deemed it necessary to wind down our telecommunications division, or our TSD, business starting immediately. Dealers can submit orders through May 22nd, subject to inventory availability and purchase order acceptance. TSD will continue to support dealers in all warranty and maintenance obligations as available to customers. With respect to VIP customers, TSD will continue to support the services in accordance with the terms. For customers wishing to transition away, we'll waive any termination. So basically, it says they're getting out of the
I
phone
don't know which
business.
phone system that is, so I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, the Toshiba is getting out of phone business.
They have multiple different ones. We'll have to look into that.
Support existing installed base customers. So, I mean, I really only have one question in your comparison. Did you contact IT Right? Did you contact them? Did we get a quote from them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have a quote from them and they were.
So if we keep getting these quotes and council's not provided these quotes, how do we know anything?
When we did the intercom quote.
Okay, when you did the intercom.
Mhm. And council doesn't, if they did not have weren't one of them picking, since they don't know anything about our network.
Because in talking to other communities and looking around, same size or similar in people, every one of them had full IT departments, and IT Right handled their complete IT services. So I just want to know what the
Roseville
costs
uses
are.
IT Right, but they also have an IT department.
No, I didn't even call Roseville. I'm talking about 4 square mile cities, towns.
I've used IT Right in several communities. They're good.
Well,
They're good.
it's budget time. We should have been, given that option to see. We're never given the option. That's the thing. We were given a last minute option to sign a contract last year on the day we were to adopt the budget. I just want to see the options before it's the last minute, and then be told it's a sense of urgency. And if we don't, everything's going to shut down. That's all I'm looking for.
The contract we have now is a 3-year contract. We still have another year and a half on it. But I'm familiar with IT Right out of Bath, Michigan.
It's difficult to get quotes on anything around here. I've asked for months for several different things, and I haven't gotten them to even get the chance to look at. So,
When contracts come up.
And then we sit down
do
here
go
with
out to
budgets.
bids. When the contracts come up, we'll go out to
You
bid
should-
for them.
I want to tell you how to do things, and I'm not going to. I would go out and look before they come up, so you're not scrambling, and then we're left with no choices.
We do. Thank you.
Never seen them.
It's been about a year. Just got 1 second. Just want to ask you a question. We're just doing a tax collecting overdue bills for the city. You notice the number of councilmen haven't paid their water or sewer bills yet.
Cash flow problem.
Is that why you haven't paid yours?
I didn't know it wasn't paid, but this.
It's been about a year since you paid a water or sewer bill. For instance, almost $500.
Long ways from 2,000 over at one time.
So you say you are paying off your bill?
No, I didn't say that.
But it says here you haven't paid your bill in a year.
That's what you said. I'm not aware of that. No big problem. The city ain't gonna go bankrupt.
Or don't you think it's a bad example to set?
No, I do not. I don't have the money.
You don't have money to pay a $400 water bill?
I do not have the money. Okay? Did you hear me?
On the time of austerity, don't you think it's
How much you owe?
we owe $440?
I do not have the money.
You say you don't have money to pay your bill.
Did you hear me?
But your water's still on though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, don't you think your water should be turned off if you're not paying your
No,
bill?
it should not be. One of these days you're gonna corner me and I'm gonna kick your ass. Okay? Now one of the days you're gonna corner me and I'm gonna kick your ass.
Well, don't you think that's a legitimate question, George? I mean, you're not the
And I
only
gave
councilman. You're not
you,
the only
wait a
councilman.
minute. I gave you a legitimate answer. You asked me about my water bill. What did I tell you?
Said you didn't have the money. But your water's still on, isn't it?
Now, that was my fucking answer to you.
But I don't think everybody has that luxury of having their water.
Tough shit. Okay, now, one of these days you're gonna corner me and I'm gonna kick your ass. Now, keep fucking with me, okay? I'm telling you, keep fucking with me.
You're not the only one, George.
I'm not talking about anybody else but you. Now, I gave you a goddamn answer.
And I asked you a follow-up question.
I gave you a fucking answer. Now, one of these days, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass. And it might be this goddamn one. Now, you got your fucking answer. Now, get out of my goddamn face.
Thank you.
I ain't bullshitting with you. Now, I'll take that fucking camera and wrap it around your goddamn head. Now, one of these days, you're gonna grab me with one fucking minute. Now, I gave you my fucking answer, okay?
Okay.
Now, I ain't bullshitting with you.
Yeah.
Now, you scared of, but I'll kick your goddamn ass, boy. I ain't bullshitting with you. Son of a bitch. Now, you hang around with me if you want. Now, you think I'm bullshitting with you?
And at this point in time, I would like to turn the floor over to Acting Mayor Himmelberg. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say tonight, I think our DPW does a wonderful job. I had a lapse in judgment. I called the DPW, asked them to purchase and fill some potholes for me. I did pay for the material and the service. It's brought to my attention that it wasn't right. I'd just like to say I'm sincerely sorry for what I did. My intent was good, but it was a bad choice on my part. So sorry to everybody that it's affected. Thank you.
Come ahead. You did understand if you speak now, you're not going to be able to speak the rest of the evening. Is that correct? Okay. Well, just making sure.
Speak right into the microphone.
Two things I'd like to clarify. That I appreciate the representative doing the work that she did on the issue with the senior housing. However, unfortunately, council had already ruled. It's been brought up many times that the last council was thinking of selling it. On June 18th, there was a motion by member Jennings and second by member Carnegie, not to sell the senior housing. Recently, there was a discussion at the senior housing that Mr. Himmelberg, as a councilman at that time, was the only one that didn't want to sell the building. I want to clarify that. I want to explain why this whole thing got started. We were solicited as a city to possibly think of the idea of selling it. Mr. Haberman was approached by an outside firm, I guess, or a business that owns a building in our city to purchase it. At no time was it ever discussed to actually sell it at a vote. That's very important. And it's interesting to note that absolutely we are exactly back where we were from that year ago. It's unfortunate that got played out in the political forum because it wasn't really a political thing, but those people took the gas on that, so to speak. The other thing too is I have some concerns about this incident with the asphalt repair.
Mr. Sleuth, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
Mr. Tomlinson, please.
Actually, it's more of a issue that arose out of a personnel matter. And as council's aware, that's really an administrative function. And we were directed by the city manager to look into the issue. Actually, at the end of the day, what we found, and I somewhat...
the clock has stopped, correct?
I somewhat disagree a little bit with Councilman or Acting Mayor Himmelberg's apology from the extent that what we found is in our community, we've had a long-standing tradition and culture of providing materials such as slag, such as compost and things of that nature to our citizens and businesses that pay for them. However, that's typically not an operation that the city or municipality should engage in. So really, at the end of the day, what this whole thing brought to light was that, and that what we've recommended to the administration is to review our policies and procedures as pertains to this, because we don't want to cross that line of public funds being expended for a private purpose. Granted, obviously, all of these type of policies were put in place because we were trying to provide greater services to our residents, greater services to our business owners, and things of that nature. And in the discussion during that discussion with Councilman Hemmelberg, as well as the individuals involved, this process came to light. We've made recommendations as to some of those changes that have to going forward. So I'm just a little concerned about the line of discussion going forward, just because it really, I don't want it to be painted in a very negative light, when in fact it was something that has been going on for a very, very long time, and nothing different than what other residents and business owners have done in the past. So and I think sometimes things like that get blown out of proportion when they really shouldn't.
And Mr. Thompson, if you wouldn't mind, please remind Mr. Slufel this is a business meeting. There will be no personal attacks on any member of this council today.
There isn't. There isn't.
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
No, I'm sorry. Can I speak, Mr.?
Are you finished?
Okay.
Mr. Slufel,
Now the clock starts again. I understand that, but at no time in the city of Fraser could you buy hot tar or hot patch. Okay. The other thing too is the investigation that was done on this. This is what some people would consider misconduct in office. It's exactly the reason that people in Detroit have been arrested. And may I say that the investigation.
You're out of order, sir. I won't ask you again to stop. Mr. Tomlinson, please go ahead.
Mayor, this note comes nowhere near the level of misconduct in office.
You should.
The clock stop.
You should probably discontinue your line.
Completely inappropriate.
I just have one more thing to say. The investigation that was done on this, who did the investigation?
Mr. Dolan did the investigation. I also was part of it to some degree. So,
as a council, you understand that Mr. Dolan and Mr. Tomlinson work at will of council. So I think you can all understand where I'm going with that. That's not really a real good person to have do the investigation, although I understand and I appreciate probably the work you did on it.
Mr. Tomlinson, Mr. Slufel, I'm going to stop you. You've been continually out of line with your questions. The city attorney has rang you in. Go ahead, Mr. Tomlinson.
He's correct. We work for all of council.
I didn't say
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about suggesting that you were improper in your investigation.
Well, I'm not going to take offense at that, but
No.
that is amazing. Our job is to respond to all of the inquiries of council and respond to all of the issues pertaining to council on these.
Let me make it very clear.
My answer does not change.
This is not a personal attack on anything. I just feel bad that due to this situation, what we might end up having is a lack of services that have been supplied to residents for many, many years, and they've enjoyed those services. Some of them being gravel, some of the other things that were available, dirt, and things of that nature. It's very unfortunate that a member of council didn't realize that this was wrong, to take municipal equipment, municipal purchase supplies over the city line and use them not for the city of Fraser. They were paid for by the residents and they are owned by the residents. So I think that it's very important. I also want to state, I take exception to our councilor's decision to say that he felt that this was correct. I think that this should be looked at by an outside agency. And I also think that basically they might find that this counselor and his partner would not be the ones to do the investigation. I personally am not going to take this any further, but I would caution council to look at this very, very close, because this is exactly the kind of thing that can cause problems in communities. It is something that needs to be looked at. Unfortunately, most people, if there is a change in the supplies that are available for this community because of this situation, that's very unfair. So I would like to say that I did not mean it as a personal attack. It is not a personal attack, but I think it has bad ramifications for the residents for their services that they did appreciate, dirt, gravel, and things of that nature. So thank you. I appreciate it.
City Attorney, could you please just make it known that I at no time took any machinery, material, or nothing across the city border. I had no control over none of this.
Well, that is correct, Councilman Hemmelberg, and to say that there was not any remuneration is completely false as well. In fact, you were invoiced just as we invoiced for other items such as flag and such as compost, which was duly paid. And it wasn't paid when this issue came up. It was paid a long time ago when we were invoiced. So I want to make sure that, this isn't just being thrown around for political fodder.
To be clear for those at home,
It's a
Councilman
vendetta.
Hammelberg paid his bill. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Please come forward, state your name and your address.
We're going to fill that vacancy at this time so we can have a 4/5 vote. I nominate,
Larry, I think you need to add that to the agenda if you're
no,
going
we
to address.
don't add that to the agenda.
Yes, you do.
No, I make the agenda because I'm the mayor. Therefore, and anyway, I nominate Phyllis Walters. And I second it. All in favor, say aye.
You have to get the agenda approved.
And those opposed,
You have to get it approved, Larry. I'm not.
is it opposed? Or you're not voting?
I'm not agreeing to the approval of the agenda.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the way it's going to be because what you have on the agenda takes a 4/5 vote.
I
If
make
you
a
want to
motion,
leave,
we
then,
adjourn the meeting.
well, would you stand up and say that this is legal, like what I just did?
Is he the city lawyer?
Larry's
answering.
Officer of the
We
court.
adjourn the
He's
meeting.
an officer of the court.
lawyer?
He's an officer of the court.
city lawyer?
You don't have a city lawyer.
No, why?
Because of what you guys have done. That's why.
What you have.
No, it's not.
Larry,
I have no argument.
can't keep anything
We're
straight.
not going to have an argument on this.
That's right.
Now, Phyllis Walters has been voted in for the vacancy that we have, and she will come forth. It will not be accepted. No, it's not because it's not we got 2 against 2, so it's failed. Yeah. You don't have the full say of this council.
Neither do you, Larry.
Yeah.
You should realize that.
Yeah, I happen to be the mayor of this city.
Well, what does that mean? Dictator?
No, it doesn't mean a dictator. It just means that we go by the law.
Well, then you better learn the law. You got something to say it.
I just said, speaking of law, Mr. Curot, and that it's not your name, thank you very much. How does this fall into place? But thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Well, Larry asked me to be here because there's a state statute that says if somebody moves away, they can't be on the council, creates a vacancy. What I've seen Larry do tonight, as far as I'm concerned, is lawful.
Yeah, but we got a council member that doesn't even live in McGrath. He lives in Wisconsin.
No, he doesn't live with.
Yes, he does too.
No, he does not.
Yes,
Prove
he
that.
do.
You have to prove that in
Were
a
you
court
up
of
there-
law.
were you up
And
there
we,
today?
this is not a court of law.
Were you up there today?
What?
Were you up in Aiken today?
No, I wasn't an Aiken. Why should I be an Aiken today?
And don't say anything.
No. What's got to do with Aiken?
Because as long as he doesn't live here, he's not a council.
Oh,
member.
come on.
That's what they said in the
No.
Richard,
No,
be honest.
no, no, that's not true. And you know we have the paperwork on that, and it's already been approved. If you want to leave, you may. Now, the next thing on the agenda, where is Phyllis? Do you know where Phyllis is at? We'll have Phyllis come up and take the oath of office. So you're leaving too?
There's no quorum, there's no meeting.
What do you mean? We will have a forum shortly. So if you wanna leave, then that's your prerogative.
I don't know how to feel good about this, so. I wanna get in trouble for doing something not right.
As soon as Phyllis gets here, we'll have her take the oath of office and she'll take her place on the board.
first I would like to know, Mr. Chairman, you stated that you have tried for years to get people to come to these meetings. We're here. Why aren't you answering questions?
We don't do, I mean, every time we say put it in writing so we can, I mean, I don't want to answer something right off the bat, not knowing the right figure, things of that nature, so that's why we're gonna do that.
Okay, I'll give you my address.
I got it, please do.
Um,
Ask a question.
all right, I'm on my 3 minutes now.
No, but I got
Do y'all have a plan to lower taxes? Is that in y'all's agenda? Are we just going with flow or what are we doing?
Hopefully, we try to,
Thank you, Steve.
we try to do things, we try to come up with things, we try to implement some things, with the taxes.
Okay, what about Denmark's water? They don't get drinkable water, affordable water.
Well, that well shut down.
That's city, that's
The one that had the problem, that well shut down, so, yeah, that's a situation where it needs to be addressed, it needs to have some, a plan to put in a good water system.
Well, for me, you know, I
And there
was
was a
on
plan a couple of years ago, but folks decided not to go with it. I wasn't on council then, but there was a plan.
Right.
That's right.
Well, it's hard to believe that there's any hope for this county when you have your chairman up here talking about he doesn't give a shit. We need to be for us. And to have an attitude like that, see?
It's been nonstop the last 3 weeks.
Y'all
It's
may
been
be, not
nonstop
all
the
of you
last
are
3
that.
weeks. I mean, yeah, I'm upset.
Not all of you are. And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I have never said one statement against you. So for you to go and accuse everybody of saying
I didn't say
something.
everybody, I did not say that. I just said
You're
it's
right.
been like
You're
this
right.
for 3 weeks.
You're gonna have the answers and you're gonna do what you wanna do anyway, so.
One year and 11
have that.
months.
And the church man, and the bus driver for the county. Good evening. Glad y'all still awake. I'm hungry. Y'all need to let the citizens know to pack a lunch if you're coming to a county council meeting. My first question for you tonight is, do we have your attention?
Yes.
Do we have your attention?
Yes.
We want your attention right now. We want change for our community, for our county. Y'all are not even looking at me. You're looking off in space. My second question is this. Was the fire marshal or chief contacted to limit the number of people that would be in this room tonight? Amen. Say something. We don't know. That seems to be the answer that we get is we don't know. Or we throw some smoke. Let me tell you something. There is a revolution happening. Vandenberg is raising up. And we're calling out. We're calling out. Yes, it started on Facebook with Walden Abbott. Thank God for Walden Abbott for throwing back. Thank you for knowing something. I praise that man. Thank you. The wall. That's where it happened. I want to make a proposal that the taxpayers get to speak first. I don't want to have to wait 4 hours to come and speak to you. We should speak first. We're the taxpayers. We're the pocket that you're bleeding. We want to speak. We've shown up. You've asked us to be here. We showed up. Next thing we want, I don't know if we want, I want the immediate resignation of Joey Preston. I want the immediate resignation. And if it doesn't happen, we're going to start calling for some of y'all's resignation starting next month. We're willing to work with you 7, okay? But if we don't start seeing you working with us, we're going to get rid of you. The people have the power. The people have the power. The taxpayers have the power, and they have the voice. We're here tonight, and let me tell you what, this is the new normal. We will be here. We're going to be holding you to the fire. Get answers. My time's up. God bless you.
It is not a rally, it is a private thing. And he's constituting a political rally. It was not. And misconstrue what is going on.
It was not.
Hopefully there are chicken wings there too.
Exactly what it was.
Mr. Mayor, only thing I'll say is each person has to make their own decision when there's an elected official. Tom Russ once told me that sometimes you need to have a fishing pole in the trunk of your car. And when there has to go someplace, you have another appointment, can't be there. That's fine. And I have disregarded it sometimes and been sorry I have. But we do all of our actions. I don't care if it's how you dress. I don't care, our actions as councilmen do reflect on the town of Kearney. Vice Mayor Hutchison, Councilman Kirby and I did not attend either one of those events. And that was our own personal decision. The others made another decision. But we're not the one, I guess, that really can judge. And this infamous day in May will do that, I guess. But I've always taken the position that my actions in the town, whether it's official town business or not, reflect on this office and this organization. And that's my own personal opinion.
I think they do reflect too. I haven't seen anything on anybody, all the members of the dais that I think reflects poorly on the town recently. I think we ought to get to the people's business as soon as we can. Councilman Huff.
With all due respect to the council members' comments, I've spent, I'm in my 16th year here. That's a long time. That's about 40 meetings a year for 16 years. That is endless hours of constituent services. I certainly think I've made a commitment to the town for the grand sum of $4,000 a year. And while I work for the citizens of this community, you don't own me. 13th Amendment made that clear. What I do in my private life, what I do with my family, what I do in the confines of my home is my business. Just like what you do is your business. And I won't question that. We certainly don't want to get into a discussion about, gee, are my values better than yours, or your values better than mine? We don't do that. And in this venue, we certainly don't want to get into the discussion of politics.
It's a city council meeting.
I'm a Democrat, I'm a conservative.
Politics are going to be discussed in a city council meeting.
For office, I support this person. It's not what
Sorry.
we do here.
Just the way it is.
Unfortunately, over the last 3 years,
This is a city council meeting. We're not going to get into politics here. Fucking goof. He looks like a cross between John Bolton and Colonel Sanders.
Exactly what's occurred. People have forgotten about the town's business. They've forgotten about what's doing what's best for the community. It's been about politics.
3 years ago, there was a very divisive election. There were some decisions made by the previous town council that were rejected by the community, resoundingly rejected. Some people couldn't get over that. Some people couldn't just move on and say, okay, that's kind of, I don't like what occurred there, but that's a thing decided. Now we got to worry about moving the town forward, doing good things for the community. But that's not what's occurred. Every public hearing, without exception, for the last 3 years has been an attack on this council and the decisions they've made. Good decisions, bad decisions, didn't matter. Every decision was attacked, was questioned, was second guessed. When it came time to do budgets and people were looking for, these people up here were looking for ideas. What can we do to deal with budget shortfalls? What good ideas do we have from the community? Do we have from the people in this audience? We got zero. We didn't get a contributory process. What we got was a constant harangue, and that's continued, and it's really unfortunate. This is supposed to be about moving the town of Herndon forward. This is about forgetting politics, forgetting whether you support illegal immigration or not, and what's the best thing to do for Herndon? What's the best thing to do on whatever the subject on the agenda is? What helps Herndon the most? We don't get those kind of conversations. What we get is people complaining about what other people do in their private lives. What we get is we get Christmas cards with notes in them that are upsetting to the family. What we get is anonymous letters that are upsetting to the family. What we get is anonymous letters with threats in them that are worthy of a police report.
Okay, pause. That's actually a good idea. That's actually brilliant. Sending Christmas cards to your councilmen with proposals inside. I swear if you raise my Merry Christmas, but I swear if you raise our taxes anymore, it's not going to be a very Merry Christmas, or Merry Christmas, your wife is a whore.
We don't get things to move Herndon forward. We get petty politics. We get people that are still smarting over a decision that was made 3 years ago. It's time to move on.
Okay, speaking of moving on.
It's time to move on.
Speaking of moving on. Speaking of moving on. That guy is some mutant mashup of Colonel Sanders, John Bolton, and the Lorax from the Dr. Seuss book. Like if you spliced the DNA 3 different ways and grew them in a petri dish, it would look like this Herndon councilman right here.
To any member of the audience who would like to address the council on any item not on the public hearing portion of our agenda. Ms. Tatlow.
I'm Ruth Tatlow, 413 Queensboro Street, Herndon. I'm getting over a cold. I got Marlene Dietrich voice tonight. Last week, the governor of the Commonwealth, Virginia, came to Herndon for a fundraiser for Stevens Miller. Some Herndonites thought this was a great time for a party, a tea party, that is. Invitations were emailed. One of the recipients evidently felt it was such a good idea that he decided to put the invite on the Herndon web. There were lots of not so nice things in the invitation about Mr. Miller. And one paragraph was, let's send a message to Kane, misspelled by the way, that his partisan politics and policies are destroying our Commonwealth. The closing words, God bless. In case you didn't know, Herndon will be spending thousands of dollars for lobbyists to carry the town's concerns to, yes, Richmond. When the governor arrives in Herndon, he's greeted by 2 council members waving flags in an anti-Kane demonstration. Whether other TC members were there, I do not know. Among others present were several of the old Minutemen group, plus a huge dog. What kind of judgment does it show to openly demonstrate against people who are asking for favors? Yes, I know it's a free country and everybody is allowed to protest. However, when to do it is important. If you're trying to make nice with someone, you certainly do not openly antagonize that person. I urge you all to remember this certain lack of judgment when the election rolls around next May.
Thank you, Ms. Tatlock.
We're done. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Tatlock.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman
Please.
Hush.
This podium, this building, this dais, these people are here to serve the citizens of Herndon. We do Herndon business here.
Excuse me, I thought we were not supposed to have a discussion here when they're free.
No, you spoke.
So may I continue, please?
No, you may not. What
The mayor
members
is
of
in
this
charge.
council
Is the
do?
mayor in charge?
Silence, you fucking German scum. While I sig heil. Why aren't you sig heiling like a good German?
The mayor already said thank you,
recognize-
Mr. He
mayor
recognized me.
Is in
This is
charge.
Robert's Rules of
Am I
Order.
allowed to speak,
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Tatlock, I recognized Councilman Hush.
Even his last name is a command to be silent. Hush.
This building is to do the town of Herndon business. This dais. It's not to make political statements. It's not to attack individuals. It's to do the town of Herndon business.
This is Herndon of town business.
No, ma'am.
Yes.
What you're talking about is my personal business. What I choose to do, whatever members of this dais choose to do as their personal business is not your business. It's not anybody else's business.
I'm making
You are
a
out of line.
statement.
You are out of line.
May I continue? I have
In
a
the United
message
States
from a
of
friend
America, we
who will
citizens
not come
know,
here tonight.
we citizens
we're
know
going to be
that
like
elected
O'Reilly
officials do
or
not give up their First Amendment rights.
That's what I said. You had the rights to do it.
Bet we do.
I thought that,
Just
that
like
the idea
when I
was, the
received
timing was wrong.
Anonymous letters, when I received
I
threats
did not have an anonymous
to
letter.
give to the police department, when I received Christmas cards with notes inside that upset my family, I'm done.
What did I say?
I've had it with the petty politics. This is nonsense. Speak to.
This is a city council meeting. We do not discuss politics here. It's like Dr. Strangelove all over again. Hey, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. You can't talk politics in here. This is city council.
To Herndon business, not petty politics. Those days are over.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Hush. Thank you, Ms. Tatlock. I understand that.
I have a friend of mine could not come here, and she asked me to read her message. Please let me be sure I understand the facts.
Ms. Tatlock, I don't want this to be
The
personal.
Herndon Town Council was significantly represented on Herndon Street corner in clear view of the governor of the
Business,
Commonwealth
Mr. Mayor.
of Virginia.
Mr. Mayor, this is out of order.
Having their little tea party of derogatory signs
order,
and
Mr.
right-wing flags
Ms. Tatlock.
after they had an
Out of
effort to
order.
use town money to hire lobbyists
Mayor,
to make
please enforce
nice.
the rules.
Ms. Tatlock. Thank you.
Yeah, there were two messages, one from me and one from
You
her.
may give it to the town
And
clerk.
I'm very sorry that
Everybody.
Mr. Hush does not listen. I'm really,
In other words, hit the Autobahn, you fucking German scum. If you're not going to join us in Sieg Heiling.
really sorry. I just stating my opinion, I thought it was bad judgment to come out. We are dealing with Richmond, we're dealing with the governor.
I
to
do not
come out in
inject
the
myself
open
into
air
your business.
and-
I do not
so-
make an opinion on
Excuse
how
me,
you
I'm not
live your life
arguing with
or anybody else's life, and I expect you to do the same thing.
Thank you, Ms. Statler.
Stay out of my business.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I've 14 and a half years on this council, and we've taken a lot of static from people in the audience. I don't consider that necessarily static. But to go back and forth from the council, from this dais, with a citizen of this town, during a comment section that says anything not on the agenda. You know, the chair has to rule.
Thank you,
It's out
Councilman
of
Downer.
order.
Thank you, Councilman Downer. I don't have any problem with anything anybody wants to tell us. I think we understood Ms. Statlock's comments, though, and her disagreement with that, but I think we all.
Okay. Did you understand my comments that I made this evening too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think I'm open to hearing anything. I think the comments should not be personal, though. Okay. Other members of the audience that would like to address the council on any item not.
I'm Frank Sales Jr. for the Tipton Grapevine. The discussion became heated at Tipton City Council meeting on Monday night, December 2nd, during a vote on appointments to the Downtown Development Authority. Calling the authority board broken, Councilwoman Julie Smith recommended delaying the vote until the Development Authority's boundaries are revised. She said the Tipton Authority's boundaries were improperly expanded to encompass all of the city when the state established these boards for downtown development only. City Council, on 3-2 votes, proceeded with reappointing Mary Glenn Hendricks and Jack Stone to the Downtown Development Authority and voted to place businessman William Bird on the board rather than reappointing Harold Harper, who had asked to be reappointed. Smith and Councilwoman Mariana Cassee voted against each appointment, not because of the individuals appointed, but, they explained, because they believe the board's boundaries and procedures should be revised first.
This is a big mistake. I'm telling y'all, y'all are making a huge mistake. And this 3-2 vote, John, gets real old. Y'all are making a huge mistake. I don't care if you make exception to me. It's obvious that y'all are voting. Johnny, you sat right here and made one comment and then voted against what you said. I just want to go on record as I think this is. Nothing. Go ahead.
Out of order. She is out of order. I was point of order brought in here.
That's fine.
Mr. Attorney.
I think she's through with you.
I'm through with my comments. It's obvious and there's nothing else to be said.
All right, that's the end of the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please sit up, raise your right hand, and say aye. Aye. Those opposed, raise your right hand, saying nay.
Nay.
That's 3-2.
And I'd also like to say,
That's point of order, point of order.
I'm
We made
gonna
the vote,
speak, Jamie.
we made the vote and we're through.
I have a
The
right
vote
to
is
speak at
finished.
this table. I'm going to speak.
Yes,
I love this
I'm
shit.
going to speak. I would also
You're gonna
like to
listen,
say,
I'm sorry.
I would also like to
Mr. Attorney.
say that my vote
Point of order.
against Mr. Harper.
Mr. Attorney, come on, dude, help me out here. This bitch won't get off my case.
And Mary Glenn Hendricks and Jack Stone is nothing personal against these people because this board
His face is as red as a tamale. It's
broken.
Good job. I'm asking for point of order here. And I need the.
that was a very uncomfortable laugh.
The vote was taken.
It's done.
Okay.
Now, what point of order here? We're done.
Earlier in the meeting, Smith explained her concerns about the Downtown Development Authority.
And at the, not only the city council retreat, but the Downtown Development Authority retreat, there was concern, we spoke with Bruce Green at that retreat, who was one of the presenters, and there were two issues. One was the creation of this Tipton Development Authority and expanding the downtown boundaries from city limit line to city limit line. That was, in his opinion, not appropriate. The other thing was the Downtown Development Authority not being allowed to elect its own chairman, which state law says that they should elect their own chairman. And I think that the city council at one time had said that the mayor, by virtue of that position, would serve as the chairman, which was in direct conflict with state law. So those were the two issues that Bruce really had a problem with, and literally stood there at that meeting and says, I don't know that I want to hear any more information about your Downtown Development Authority until you get it fixed. So my concern is, are we doing the right thing by appointing members to a board that is not functioning the way that the state established it?
Well, it sounds like our problem's not the board members, but the actual board structure itself.
Right,
So maybe that's what we need to look at.
Right, and that's what, yeah, I'm not trying to put any doubt or cast any, any issue or shadow on the people. It's the structure and the position, and are we doing the right thing by appointing new members if we've got to go and fix some things to make that board functional based on the way state law said that it should operate?
I think it does need to be modified, but that's not the discussion we're talking about. We're talking about the board members who serve, which I think is a different issue. And Julie, we both have had a conversation that the DDA's boundaries do need to be looked at. The whole board needs to be looked at, the structure, Main Street office, the whole 9 yards needs to be looked at. But listen, I think we need to get the board in place so we can move forward once we make these adjustments.
And we've been talking about this for a year now. It's the boundary of what's downtown. You and I both know downtown is not Walmart. That's not downtown. But this specific board that was created by the state of Georgia to create incentive and development in downtown has the ability now to use those incentives for downtown anywhere within the city limits. That was not the intent of that organization. That's a state law that we have to abide by. And when Bruce Green stands in front of me and puts his hand over his ears and says, I don't want to hear any more about your downtown development board because what y'all done is not proper, we need to fix that. Because I think we've got members right now in the Downtown Development Authority who, if you look at the state law, do not meet the qualification. So my recommendation, and I'm going to push hard for this, is we fix what's broken. And then once we have the proper
all the people through the ownership of the respective coastal states extending 3 nautical miles. The purpose of the proposed overlay district is to create a conservation area in the areas of the waters of the town for recreational and commercial shellfishing through zoning.
That's really what we're talking about, the intrusion of structures in shellfish habitat. The Shellfish Committee is frustrated by the fact that structures are being built in significant shellfish habitat. The platform that the dock that you walk on doesn't allow the light to get into the water column, so that's a detrimental effect. But it's the prop wash that significantly ruins the bottom, and that regular prop wash destroys that habitat. It's the destruction of that habitat that we're trying to avoid. I find it interesting that this gentleman talks about removal of a property right. The water has been talked about tonight. It belongs to all of us. When you put an individual homeowner puts a structure 150 feet into that water sheet, well, by golly, they've taken that right that we have to use that water sheet. So what we're talking about tonight is water sheet zoning. If you talk to the head of the Natural Resources Division, that's precisely where he'd like to see this town to go. That's a mission of the town, water sheet zoning.
Where was the town's zeal for property rights when the town council passed to go from 1 acre zoning to 2 acre zoning? That was the taking of property rights. Buildings, lots go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was a taking, and it mostly hurt the little guy. Now a few counselors, and I'm not sure exactly who are against this zoning, are doing it for a small number of wealthy landowners, I hear. Not for the good of thousands of little guys who want to shellfish along our shores, and certainly not for some of those who need to shellfish to put food on the table for their families. This is definitely a double standard here. I also want to say that shellfish are living, breathing animals.
Oh,
that
give me a
would
break.
die without the zoning. And ironically, shellfish clean the water and protect land values of the same wealthy landowners that oppose the zoning. That's a mixed standard here too.
The people of the Commonwealth have the rights to these shellfish. The people who own the houses that are on the water do not have that right. And furthermore, when we're talking about these areas, we've lost a tremendous amount of area due to pollution right now. And I think that's one of the things between the water and the wastewater that have to be diagnosed within this community. We've lost North Bay, that's seasonal, Mills River, that's seasonal. We've lost Shoestring Bay. We've lost East Bay. We've lost so many areas. I can go on. I have 2 minutes. I was a counselor here before, and it's imperative that we take it for our children, for our future. You want these individuals to be able to go out and shellfish, because I hate to tell you something, folks, people don't come to Cape Cod for downhill skiing.
We need accessible locations to allow residents to fish. We need relay areas to continue to recycle contaminated shellfish and allow them to cleanse themselves and be recycled back to use. And we need the courage to do the right thing, and that is to vote yes on this ordinance.
And this ordinance is the salt of the earth, and I hope my fellow councilors will put aside whatever particular business they might be in and the type of people that they come in contact and vote this in the affirmative, because if we ruin the golden goose, if we ruin this resource, that property value that these people are so proud of will be lost, because if the shellfish are all dead, nobody's going to care about their house on the water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Please, no applause. Thank you. Councilor Crocker.
Thank you, Madam President. That is not the way that we handle ordinances on the land. So why is it all of a sudden the way we handle ordinances in the water? Madam President, are we going to let this go on, or can I finish? I let everyone else speak. 57 of the parcels are residential. Residential docks can be a friend to the shell fishermen. Wiano Yacht Club. I tried to be courteous to you guys too. Come on, I mean, this is a process, really.
The only areas that are open year-round are Katuitt Bay and West Bay. Everything else is polluted. Maybe you might be able to get out in the North Bay or into the Mills River, maybe in January. North Bay, maybe in November. So I called Doug Calwait. Doug called him for me and said that Mr. Hickey would call me back on Tuesday. Well, it's Thursday. Haven't got a call back. However, I did find out through Mr. Calloway in his conversations with Mr. Hickey that Mr. Crocker had already spoken with him at length, ad nauseum, and that he perceived this as a catfight within a town, and he didn't want to get involved. So you elected to not.
Point of information, you're going to have to give me a chance to rebut. You can't be looking at me and asking questions.
You elected not to be part of the process.
You're going to regret saying that, but keep it up.
Okay. All right.
Personal. See, it's personal, Madam President.
Please. Okay, can I have it quiet in here, please?
All the jeers are terrific, but they really are just
I
theater.
understand.
Because when I said he was going to regret it, it was because I have information that I participated in the process. And by regret it means you make a statement that you're disappointed about.
By regret it means I'm going to kill him with kindness. Capiche?
I believe you recognized
Steve is
me.
here.
Okay, that wasn't.
Are you interrupting? I'm sorry.
I was recognized actually before you.
I said point of information.
Councilor
How could
Kennedy, let
that
Councilor
stops?
Crocker finish, please. All
This
right,
is not a
enough.
point of
Wait.
information.
Whoa. President, okay? Councilor Crocker.
I prepared homework. I got more paper here. Everyone knows what I'm all about.
for, I think, some indication that this ordinance would not pass unless a compromise was reached. Now, this document is a compromise. I mean, we have lost 55 feet out of the habitat to allow the Wiano Club growth. We have lost 100 feet of the original habitat that we proposed to allow the Hyannisport Club for their growth. So I think there's been a great deal of compromise on this side.
So,
Just make a quick point.
excuse me, I don't remember you saying that to any of the other councils, and I strongly object.
I just need to let everybody know that we're close to losing our planning board.
So this isn't about a wealthy landowner in a different place. It's about you. And it's about protecting you today so that in the future, when they come to take your house by eminent domain, we've already laid the groundwork that we're not going to do it in the future.
Don't grandstand at a meeting like this. It just takes.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Alex, no point of this.
Planning
No
board
point
is
of
on.
order. Chairman,
Excuse me.
allegations have been specifically made towards the precinct council from precinct
The planning
3.
board is in their own discussion. They're two separate.
Madam
hearings.
Chairman, specific comments to precinct 3 have been given and how they're upset about it. Point of order. He's out of order.
I'm going to ask you, Fred, to stand up and make a call. Either vote yes or vote no. But don't kill an issue by sitting there and saying nothing. And I would suggest to have some intestinal fortitude. Thank you.
All paying homage to the fact that these folks are our boss and will dig deep in our conscience, in our heart, and just do the right thing. Would you stop? Sorry, Madam President.
To the sea of love.
What the hell? Looks like he's trying to eliminate him from the Royal Rumble. Well, it is January. Jesus. What, he gave him flowers, and now he's hoisting him up bodily. I love Ukrainian parliament. What the hell? Another day in the Ukraine. Where councilmen battle to the death. There's an eye gouge. Somewhere in this sea of bodies, I just know the devil himself, Lyoshko, has orchestrated this madness. Everywhere there's a fight in Parliament, Lyoshko is not far behind. This has his fingerprints all over it. I don't know what the guy was clapping about. Maybe, oh, nobody got killed today, guys. That's progress. I love how every syllable out of their mouth sounds like they're about to choke on their last breath. It's amazing. They're such an angry people. Uh-oh. Oh! God! Hold me back. No, wait. I'll go around. Gentlemen, go to your respective corners. The bell has not even rung yet.
And after months of bloodshed, the Ukrainian government could be moving closer to a compromise with the pro-Russia rebels. Parliament today approved limited self-rule for the eastern regions. The central government would also grant amnesty for most of the separatist fighters there. And there was another big development from Kiev, the signing of a landmark treaty that strengthens economic ties with the European Union. This was the deal the old government abandoned last year, triggering protests and eventually its demise. And one Ukrainian MP found himself in a rather uncomfortable position after the parliament session in the trash. Well, this member of parliament is a holdover from the old government. You can see they don't seem to want to let him out of the bin. A lot of people were already mad over legislation he wrote limiting protests, and apparently they were angry this time over the amnesty for rebels.
Шановні колеги, я прошу зупинитись. Шановні колеги, я ще раз прошу зупинитись. Колеги, хто старший по званню? Будь ласка, розбороніть. Старший по званню Юрій Береза. Будь ласка, не робити свідомі провокації в залі. Я прошу зупинити. Шановні колеги, прошу зупинити протистояння. Прошу зайняти робочі місця. Прошу зайняти робочі місця, колеги. Я закликаю не провокувати протистояння в залі. І моє особливе звернення до опозиційного блоку. Своїми заявами ви провокуєте просто протистояння в залі.
А як це депутат?
You know, there's something that I respect about the way they do things, the way they're constantly coming to blows in Parliament over there in Ukraine, and it's a very vulnerable, volatile area of the country, of the world. But maybe every politician should be willing to get into a dust up fist fight over their what they believe and their policies, their causes. I mean, if you're not willing to get in a physical fight, maybe you shouldn't have it. I don't know. But then again, what if the wrong person wins the fight, you know? Wait a minute. This Klitschko guy was a world heavyweight champion in boxing. Just recently, in the last few years, entered politics himself. Here we have yet another fight in Parliament in the Ukraine, and it's Klitschko watching from the sidelines. You can't make this up. The boxer is the one restraining himself.
Unruly scenes in Ukraine's new parliament as brawls erupted between opposition deputies and those of the ruling party of the regions. The chaos unfolded after the opposition tried to physically block a vote on the ruling party's nomination for speaker. Groups of deputies wrestled with one another in the parliament's main rostrum, just as Vladimir Rybak, the region's candidate for speaker, was about to be announced. The opposition, which includes a Liberal Party led by Vitaly Klitschko, accused the coalition of trying to ram through voting despite violations of parliamentary rules. But the boxing champion stayed out of Thursday's brawl, opting instead to watch from the side of the chamber. This latest clash is one of a series of scuffles which have broken out in the country's parliament. On Wednesday, newly elected far-right nationalists arrived with chainsaws to bring down a fence around the building.
Check out.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going.
You sure do got some gall telling people a bunch of lies on me last night. I was hiding in some bushes, don't you? I thought you were supposed to be a quality reporter.
I don't believe I said you were hiding in the bushes. I said you were parked across the street.
It just said you said that on air because I just called asking for a recording. And if you said I was parked across the street, you need to get your damn eyes checked because I was in Indianapolis all week, bud. Now, you're a little hard on for me. It's about to come to an end. You understand that? I can't be no more clear than that for you. I don't know what I've done to offend you, but this little man crush you got on me and taking out on my dad ends or better ends. Because I.
Come on.
I didn't ask you, Paula. It's to you. It's requesting you to set a meeting on the 23rd. Doesn't have to go to 7 council meetings. Council, not the 8th council person. I'm not the 8th council person. This is a letter that you guys requested for a meeting.
They never had the meeting.
I know the meeting never happened, but
No, no,
why was
no.
only a select council people asked to sign this letter?
I don't know.
Four people wanted to have a meeting, and the proper procedure is to ask the council president.
Without you speaking,
Well, you know,
that's the problem here now. They can't speak.
that's not the
You have to
problem
speak.
here. That's not the problem here.
Who called this meeting for today?
Patricia,
You know, we went.
under the advisement of John McLean,
Oh, okay.
which was supposed to be earlier.
The reason I asked, John, we went through this last year. These guys weren't on council. We had a meeting on December 31st at 11 o'clock in the morning. And we didn't have a quorum. So the meeting was held at 9 o'clock on New Year's Eve.
Well, the reason we had to have a meeting was because
I understand.
we need to adopt the ordinance for the
Yeah,
tax
we gotta
levy.
get the taxes. I know. So we can collect money, I know.
Your meeting last
But
year
you know
was to
what?
adopt the budget. We
Yes.
adopted the budget within the
Yes, I know.
time.
Well, there's other things, you know, there's.
You guys didn't have a separate meeting to adopt the tax levy ordinance last
No.
year.
Paul, I did give, I apologize to the mayor,
Mhm.
but I did call NASA, that works. I called Tomette, that works. I
Yeah.
called Martha, that works. Okay?
Yeah.
I called those people, and they didn't have a problem having it at 11 o'clock. I
Well,
figured you didn't work,
yeah,
Jesse
but I
didn't
had,
work.
because of the holiday, I had dialysis. I just came from dialysis. I mean, you
I
know,
apologize,
that's all right.
because I thought your
No problem.
dialysis was on Wednesday.
It usually is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And given common
But
courtesy,
Christmas
I
and
thought
New
we can
Year's,
do
I
it at 11
understand.
and get it over with and go home and continue your holiday with your family.
I understand.
That's the only reason. It wasn't done spitefully. I took off today.
They messed me all up, Pat. They messed me all up with this holiday. I go in Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. Now tomorrow I'm off, and I'm off Thursday. And I was off after Christmas. I think today's Wednesday.
Well, I'm losing 4 hours. Can I get paid for my 4 hours?
Sure.
Submit it to the finance department.
It ain't happening. And y'all, this
He makes big money.
This is people busy season right now on the jobs. You know, I got 3 trucks lined up right now. I just told the man, I said, you gotta have somebody else to do it right now, you know, and I come back and I take over.
Where do you work, Mike Sharon Hill?
Oh, yeah. Working for a place called CAP, but we deal with
I know,
government
I know,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, you dealing with government stuff, man, you can't be,
Yeah.
you know.
It's 11
So
a.m.
y'all ready?
Madam President.
No, I got a phone call that's on. They're gonna be late, so we're gonna hold it up.
Okay.
Because this our finish line. Y'all put a meeting last night that y'all was working on reducing the part-time people. How the hell you gonna reduce part-time to part-time? Like, come on.
First off, Pat, we never needed them jobs in the first place. They were jobs that.
Well, we don't need
were
this
given
job
out.
either.
You know what, maybe we could discuss that, Pat, but you wanna go against the simplest little things you wanna create an argument about, and that's not my style.
Well,
but that's
first
what
of
you
all,
do.
Fred, no. How do you kick somebody that's already down here and y'all study fucking kicking?
Who's that?
The part-time people that don't even make what the goddamn crossing guards make, and all you want to do is cut the crossing guards thing.
Crossing guards make less.
I'm not talking to you.
Well, one thing about the crossing guards, you can't cut the crossing guards out. You can't do that. Because the crossing guards gotta be there for these kids.
And highway don't, and receptionist don't.
Right now, it is.
We do not owe Tracy Bell a living.
We
Okay?
don't owe
Tracy
no one
Bell,
here a living.
Get over that doesn't do his job. Go look at the 500 line report. No, it's not personal.
Yes,
It's all personal and racial.
Yes, it is.
Because of you.
It's
You pull the race card on everything.
Whatever.
And you put that race card back in the deck. Put it back in the deck.
Whatever.
Okay? Because you guys destroyed this town.
Oh, you guys
Yeah, that's
did.
right, you did.
Oh,
You wanted to lower a
So what?
$500 tax increase.
I
A
was the only one.
$500 tax
Was I
increase.
the
So
only one?
all your friends from Philadelphia
I
can
don't
stick
have
money
no
in
friends in Philadelphia.
Then why did you put money in their pocket? And then you talk about the police. You voted a cop back to change
guess what?
They gave him $8,000 because he's
And
Tony
guess
Frank.
You said
And you used the police department. You used the police department and the code department. Like Henry used the SS. Like Henry used the SS. You shut my business down when a trophy.
If I were a paying customer of city council fights, these guys would be the best quality service right here in Colwyn Borough.
Code enforcement officer who's got $120,000 in his pocket.
And
You use the police department. You use the police department to go against political opposition. Okay. Oh, you did? You approved of it? You approved of it?
What are we
You
waiting
approved
for?
of it?
So what? I approved
So
of
what? That's a fact. So what?
What are we waiting for?
The meeting was advertised for 11 o'clock.
What are we waiting
Let's
for?
start the meeting. It was advertised for 11.
Oh, but you don't
Let's
want
get
to
it
talk
done.
about the officer that you allowed
Madam
to
Chairman.
work here, and now we have a woman dead.
That has nothing,
That's not-
Patricia,
Patricia.
how dare you? No,
What's the power in having-
don't you ever do that.
You hired him. I didn't hire him.
Didn't even do a background check on it.
And yet you try to bring it tonight.
Yo, let's cut it out. Let's cut it out.
It's 11 o'clock. No, it's 11 o'clock. Start the meeting.
Come on, man. Come
It's
on.
11 o'clock. Start the meeting. She doesn't get to say,
Let's
let's
get out
wait.
of here.
Tell me.
Let's get the business.
The meeting is called for 11.
Who did the background check?
Resolution. Resolution.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Oh wait, we got to say the pledge before we get into shrill hysterics. Watch how they go right back to it after.
With liberty and justice for all. I never called this meeting to order. so
That's all right.
Meeting's called to order.
It's not.
Start at 11 o'clock.
I'm making a
Let's get it
motion.
over.
So when John McBlain is late, y'all can wait for John. But Tona and Martha's late, you can't wait for them.
People have to get back to work, Patricia.
I said, when John is late, we wait.
I'm making a motion
Two
to
people
appoint
are
Paul
trying
Muser
to
as president of Colwyn Council.
I second the motion.
Motion on the floor, seconded.
Roll call vote
Patricia Williams.
I don't know what the motion is. I haven't called. the
to
meeting
appoint
to
Paul
order.
Muser as president of
And I'm
Colwyn
recording
Council.
this whole meeting because I did not call this meeting to order. And
Patricia
John,
Williams.
You need to straighten this out before it gets bigger, okay?
Patricia
Well,
Williams.
it's- Well, to say it's the president doesn't have the sole discretion on whether you're going to have the meeting or not. We are scheduled to meet at 11 o'clock
Okay,
and it's 11 o'clock. It's time to meet. If a majority of the council wants to commence with the meeting, that's what the majority of the council can do.
okay. So they cannot wait for two other council people. That's what you're saying, right?
It's up to a majority of the council whether you want to start
That's
at
fine. Go
when
ahead,
you want
make the
to, or
motion.
whether you want to wait for any other
The
council
motion
members
is
to
on,
arrive.
the motion is on the floor to appoint Paul Muser as council president. Jesse Brundage made the motion. Fred Lesher seconded. Patricia Williams, your vote? You're not voting?
I didn't call this meeting to order.
You're not voting?
I did not call this meeting.
Fred
to order.
Lesher,
I'm voting for Paul Muser to be president of council, because we gotta move this town
Massa
forward.
Camara,
Not bad.
Yeah.
Jesse Brundage.
Yes.
This is what
Paul
your
Muser.
meeting was
Yes.
about last night, right?
4, 1
There's
not
nothing
voting.
slow about Patricia Williams, okay?
Mr. Muser, please take
And
your
I do want
council
to
seat.
talk to you about this meeting.
Here's the agenda.
I was,
He
on
was.
4-0.
He was voted.
Four votes.
What 4 votes did you get?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Gotcha.
You got it.
Public comment first.
We don't have a recording secretary?
No, she's not, she's
I'm
can't
doing it
make
right
it.
now.
Okay.
All right, so I think, Mr. President, what you should do is,
Take a roll call vote.
vote to approve a temporary secretary for purposes of today's meeting.
Okay.
That would be by a motion to approve a resolution appointing whomever to be
I'd like to get a motion on the floor to appoint a secretary,
Yeah, well,
just for today.
I'll make that motion for Paula Brown today.
Okay.
We gotta get this meeting done.
Motion on the floor, second.
Okay. All
Okay,
in favor,
roll
or you want a
call.
roll call vote? Go
Roll
ahead.
call. Patricia Williams. Not voting. Fred Lesher.
I'll vote and approve that, whatever the motion I made.
Massa Kamara. Jesse Brundage.
Yes.
Mr. Muser.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, next item will be public comment.
Take roll call or no? We don't know.
Well, we'll do roll
We
call.
know who's here. Fine.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
And I
Patricia
went
Williams.
To the Ethics Commission on every one of y'all.
Patricia Williams.
Every one of y'all coming out of politics.
Patricia Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Patricia
So
Williams.
you're gonna need to just, we keep the cat.
You're not allowed behind the council.
Yeah, you can't come up
We're
there.
glad you're
Pass the
here,
table
man.
there.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here.
Patricia Williams. We know she's here. Mr. Lesher.
What's that to you?
Roll call,
Present.
Fred.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Just
voting
say
here.
Mrs. Kamara. Mr. Brundage.
Here.
Mayor.
He's here.
You're here.
Mr. Muser.
I'm here.
And Mr. McLean.
Here.
Okay, now public comment.
I'm gonna start with public comment. We don't have much public here, but if anybody would like to speak.
Residents.
Public comment.
Residents only.
Residents, yeah.
Yeah, you can
You
ask
guys are from the
questions.
news?
Residents only.
These three gentlemen are from the news, okay.
All of a sudden,
Okay.
we go into residents only.
Well, that's what your rules
Yeah,
say.
just public comment.
That's what your rules say.
What comes?
You can ask all the questions.
That's
but
what your
let's
rules
keep the
say.
motions
Yeah,
first.
yeah, it's,
Okay?
Okay,
can I say
go
some
into the next
questions
thing.
they
Yeah,
want?
Go into the
Go ahead.
next thing.
Can I say something?
go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
That's waiting.
It's,
They didn't
We just
wait.
started.
it's time for this borough to move forward.
And it ain't
I'm
gonna
tired of
be
going
with
back.
y'all and
You know why,
the-
You know why, Patricia? Because y'all always try to kick us back. It ain't happened no more.
That secret
This
meeting,
borough is
that's
going
it.
forward.
Okay. I want to make a
It was a
motion.
Christmas party we were at.
Next
Okay,
item
I
on the
want to make a
agenda.
motion.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Lesher.
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to make a motion to hire the 3 part-time police officers. I personally interviewed them, okay?
Well, that's two, Fred. We'll
Let's
get
go to
there.
the
Read
first
your
one.
agenda,
Go
Fred.
follow the agenda.
Okay.
All right, I need a motion for 2015 tax levy ordinance number 755.
I make a motion to pass that,
Okay.
That was
I
that meeting
second the
last night that I
motion. I second
videotaped
the
all of
motion.
leaving Paula's house last night.
Can I get a
And
second?
NASA lied and
Yes.
said she got the
Okay.
elite. Must have been
Freddie
at
Rush.
7:30.
Freddie seconded.
I second
Motion on the
motion
floor
to
in a
up the
second.
taxes.
It must
After
have
this
been at
group,
7:30.
after this group let
Any
people
questions?
village this
Yes,
town.
no.
They
Questions
kick
on
out
the
the
motion?
houses.
Roll call.
You're number one.
That's right.
Mrs. Williams.
Number one.
Mrs. Williams.
What happened to the damn discussion?
Mrs. Well,
Wait a minute. Questions on the
we
motion?
asked for discussion
Who
and
sat there
nobody
like
answered
you was
any.
boss?
We didn't have a discussion.
Questions
Mrs.
on the
Williams.
motion?
Here, so that
You think
we
you
didn't-
let this happen like this?
Yes. He asked for a question on the motion. No one responded.
Hey, I want you and Mark to keep. The lower tax.
Lesher.
Questions on the motion.
Okay?
Questions on the motion on ordinance number 755?
Yeah, I make that motion.
It was made and seconded. We're having questions, Fred. If you have
Anybody
any
question? Anybody want
no
to?
questions on the motion?
I want to know what the assessment is right now.
42 million.
And what was it last year?
Do you want me to read the
46
motion?
million.
The question
It
should
went
be on
down
the
in
tax.
assessment, you're taxing a less
Question is on the motion for the tax
You want
levy
me to read
ordinance,
the
not on the
motion?
assessment.
Do you want me to read this?
Same thing we can do.
Now, that is the motion. Already made. All the questions over now.
As I said,
The police make your code is for all
Mr. Lesher. Mr. Lesher, the vote is to approve the tax levy ordinance number 755.
What are we doing here?
We're doing the first one.
Mr. Lesher, what is your vote? Mr. Lesher.
The first one.
I'm voting along with taxes.
Yes.
Poor neighborhood.
Mrs. Kamara. Mr. Brundage. Motion carries.
I vote yes.
Next motion.
Next motion.
Next motion.
They're getting ready to vote. Benita down and Tracy.
Number two.
Tracy down.
Motion to hire. Come on, Paul, do it.
Number two, a motion to hire 3 part-time police officers.
I make that motion, something that's definitely needed in this borough, and these guys have been through the mill. Okay, this isn't like the 2 day.
Did you make the motion?
I make the motion. It isn't like the 2 day hire.
Can I get a second?
Second on the motion?
Can I get a second?
Question on the motion.
Questions on the motion?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
Questions on the motion?
I'm sorry.
Hearing none.
Questions on the motion?
Background checks were performed.
Mayor?
Chief Hills and
Oh my God. The mayor, Chief Hills, and the public safety director.
Can I have discussion?
Any more questions on the
You
motion?
said the mayor.
Police chief and public safety. Yes, it
And
was a
tell
tree.
me, what did the mayor read? What did he read?
You sure you want to go that way? You sure you want to go that way?
Questions? Mrs. Williams.
We do.
Not voting. Mrs. Gray. Not voting. Mrs. Williams. Mr. Lesher. Discussion is on the motion to hire. You need to sit down.
Damn.
She took a vote for me.
Sit down.
She cannot.
I didn't take a vote. You did not vote.
And you didn't check it down.
Did not vote.
You cannot take a vote for me.
Did not vote.
You cannot take a vote. You are regular. You cannot.
questions?
We're having questions on the motion.
Mr. Lesher.
Girls, ladies, ladies,
I understand you.
we're having questions on the motion. Go
Yes,
ahead.
the mayor was part of this interview. Tell me, what did he read on any of their applications? And who did the background checks? Because Rosa.
It was a joint committee.
Plus the fact,
Lieutenant Director, Chief
Be quiet, Mr. Williams.
Public Safety.
You be quiet, I'll have you removed.
you know.
Yes, I will. You be quiet. Public comment is over. Any more questions?
No more questions, hearing no more
Roll call
questions.
vote.
Mrs. Williams. No question. Mrs.
Appointed
Gray.
temporary secretary.
No vote.
Denise Blake.
Mrs. Van Auken.
No.
No vote. Mr. Lesher. Mr. Lesher, your vote. Yes?
Yes, the hiring cops.
Mrs. Kamara. Mrs. Kamara. To hire the police.
Go ahead. Any more questions on the motion? Questions on the motion?
You're not letting us discuss.
Go ahead. Questions on the motion?
My question is,
Go ahead.
on the police officers.
Yes.
On the motion.
Who?
Yes.
Who?
Right.
Council's rights have been taken ever since this woman been at the table. We had a cop that was on suspension. He was terminated. He never came before council. His status has been since he was suspended. It took a vote of 7.
That's not a question.
It took a vote of
Question on the motion. The motion is to hire 3 police officers. Question on that motion. Question on the motion only. That's not a question.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Stop.
There you go.
I am a council person. I
don't care what you is.
than you.
You got no rights to me.
Because you don't
Everyone stop.
What you gonna do, Hills? You gonna come lock me up? Because they doing it wrong?
Isn't that what you did with your
Morning,
police
Chief.
department? That's what you did with your police department. Political weapon.
That's a lot of questions are closed now.
Any more questions
I
on the
want
hiring
to
of
know
our
who's
new
hiring our police officer.
Mr. Chief?
It's not question on the motion only. Question on the motion only.
They
fired a police officer.
No more questions.
Chief,
Okay. Mrs. Williams, are you voting? Mrs. Craig, are you voting? Mrs. Van Orken, are you voting? Mr. Lusher, yes. Mrs. Tamara?
Right,
just
we
stop for a
have not
second.
finished our discussion.
All right.
And she keeps trying to force a
You have a question on the motion?
Got him up there.
You can only question what's on the motion.
It's not a question.
That's correct.
It's a discussion.
It's a question on the motion, on the motion. You cannot bring up other items on this motion. No, you cannot.
No, yes, you can.
No, you cannot.
You know what? I want to know who fired
Everybody, will you? Chief,
Who fired him?
No.
He fired Crab, and it never came before council.
This is not on the motion, Paul.
It's on the hiring of the police. I'm just gonna ask him. I'm just gonna ask him to address council.
The right to discriminate.
You can entertain.
Yes, Mr. Bonder. Yes, Mr. Muser. Mr. Muser. Mr. Muser.
Go ahead, yes, yes.
Motion carries.
Wait a minute, hold up. You did not give us a vote.
Go ahead, take a vote.
You didn't hear us say nothing. Because we cannot abstain.
Where do you live at, John?
Next item on the agenda.
Next item, can I get a motion to approve resolution?
This is not a democratic place.
2004?
You just Nobody voted. She called the motion. She's been running council. We don't have her running council.
Okay, me too. Vote on the motion to hire the police officer.
And you said it's
You're saying to us that in the number 4
situation where
there is
no one desk.
Oh, we gotta do 3.
Or as Mayor Blue was talking to his friend at work,
Okay.
said he fired him.
Get to number 3.
All right, let's go, move on.
Yes, she did.
All right, let's have a motion. You guys,
I'm making a motion to reduce the
council in March. This council was supposed to take a vote and suspend it.
questions on the motion?
And if you was a
Question on that motion.
why do Norwood have his gun?
Hearing no questions, go on. Mrs. Williams.
Questions on the motion?
Go ahead.
Stupid woman right here is going on with the big.
Easy with the words, ladies. Come on.
We don't even have a secretary here.
Paul was appointed temporary for today.
Oh, so she taking over the borough.
No, she was appointed by council.
Tania Bryant and Kenyatta Cooper, which is all black. And you're not gonna tell me Kenyatta is racial? You gonna say it's not racial? His mother died.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
Any more questions?
No more questions?
So
She's not.
Did you see the way she passed off the mic to her as it was falling?
You address him. The rules say she addresses you with a question.
I don't care.
Hang her out of order.
Contract.
Bring your meeting back in
Under
play.
the contract they're working now.
No,
And you wanna know
these people
something?
gotta get back
If
to
y'all
work.
do this,
Let's go.
y'all all over here.
All right. Any more questions?
Mrs. Williams.
Jeanette?
Mrs. Craig. Mrs. Van Orken. Mr. Lusher.
Any more questions?
Mrs. Kamara. I'm discussing another thing with the question on the motion.
We want questions. Questions on the motion.
Here's the problem.
We had it already.
Here's the problem. All those council people, along with the mayor, attended a special meeting last night.
We already had it.
That's not a question on the motion, and that's not true. You don't even listen to the goddamn solicitor. So here's my question is, Freddie's getting what he wants because Paula got what she wants. A sucker for president that's gonna bow down to her.
I'm not a sucker.
And do what she wants.
No, you ain't.
You are too.
Keep your comment to yourself. Yes, you will. Keep your comment to yourself.
And it's all about.
Any other questions?
Do you have anything you remember from sweet?
What was it about?
Not your secret
What was
meeting. Not your secret meeting.
The president's calling for any further discussion. What was it about? You spent
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Van Arken, Mr. Lesher, Mrs. Kamara, Mr. Brundage, Mr. Muser.
So they are literally, and it's on TV. They have literally taken our vote away. She has taken our vote because we didn't say yay and no, and you cannot vote and talk about it past 3 to 4. And does anybody
cast your vote?
Motion carried.
Won't you give him time?
4 to 3 not voted.
Time to speak.
People gotta get back to work.
There are so many things on the screen to follow with this crowd. It's amazing.
Number 4. Can I have a motion? People gotta get back to work, Martha. Motion number 4. Motion to approve resolution 2014-15 Community Development Block Grants application.
I make that motion to approve the resolution.
Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
Questions on motion number 4?
Discussion on the motion.
Go ahead.
What are we putting the block grant in for, since we didn't get no.
We talked about this at our last meeting.
No, we did not. We did not decide on what we was putting it in for. Even if it was discussed, we didn't decide on what we putting it in for.
They decided that last night at Paula's house.
So what are we putting this block grant in for? Y'all are breaking the law so bad.
How many times you don't broke the law? You can't say nothing about nobody. You can't say nothing about nobody. And I don't want to hurt no more. You ain't nothing but
this.
All right, that's all you is a racist. That's all you is. That's all you is, a racist.
Any more questions?
I know I'm not a racist.
What I'm signed.
All right, the question,
And $500 tax.
question was
Poor people buy their homes.
You're going to lose the war.
You was creating poor people to lose their homes in this
You brought this bar down to nothing, and now you're trying to cover it up. You cannot cover it up no more. I don't care what none of y'all have to say. You brought it down to nothing. I'm not backing away from you.
Sit down, Sit down.
I don't have to.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. This is my constitution. If they
I don't
want to
care.
take
Sit
me,
down.
I'm not sitting down.
Nobody yourself.
In a minute, I'm gonna have you removed.
She's taking my vote. She took
Yes, I can. You want it back? You want it back?
I know something. You want us to go back to court?
I don't care. Go ahead. You ain't intimidating me.
No. You know why? Because that's your enforcer.
No, he ain't. He's our police chief in this car.
He's the enforcer.
Okay.
We don't play the same game you play.
You
Right.
enforcer.
All right.
You're the biggest slumlord income
Yeah, right.
and you talk.
Okay.
Guess what? When's the last time you paid your mortgage?
Fred.
Come on, Paul, let's go. Answer the question.
The resolution.
That's a question.
I know,
What
right.
is it for?
Jeanette,
Read it.
let me read this to you. Go ahead, Paul.
If she does not want to
I
answer,
know.
Paul,
He should not be.
The motion number 4, the money was used, the money we're gonna use is for the former Collins Swim Club. Correct hazardous conditions at the former Collins Swim Club by filling in pools. Erect fencing to secure the property, rehab the existing basketball court.
All right, any more questions?
Any more questions on the motion? Do we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Williams. Mrs. Frey. Mrs. Van
Roll
Auken.
call vote.
Mr. Lesher. Mrs. Kamara. Mrs. Kamara.
Said yes.
For anybody trying to make
To prove that block grant for the
make legal head.
Mr. Brundage.
Yes.
Mr. Music.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Ordinance number 5.
Next motion. Next motion. Next motion is number 5. Motion to approve resolution 2414/26. Can I get a motion on that? Motion to approve.
Resolution 2014-26.
The motion will be to approve Sarita Jackson as our recording secretary, Paul Brown as borough secretary.
I make that motion.
Can I get a second?
She's the recording secretary. That means she's got all the power. She's the treasurer.
Can I get a second, guys? Second. Discussion on the motion.
First of all this is illegal.
No discussion.
Y'all have seen the meeting.
Any discussion?
Now.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Williams.
I would like you to love
Mrs. Prey.
a sunshine.
Mrs. Van Auken is not here. Mr. Lesher.
You understand what I'm saying? She had one table.
Mrs. Kamara.
Same thing they did in the
Mr. Grundy.
Yes.
Mr. Muser.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
My question
That is
motion carrying.
Motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Next meeting, January 8th. Thank you for attending.
I am so there.
That was all we discussed.
Papers because I kind of just from listening.
You know, you had review.
Can I get a motion to accept to advertise an order?
This does
Here we
means
go.
all of the retired police officers that have worked here for many, many years, they are not going to be receiving their retirement if we don't catch up. And please let me finish.
I'm not gonna let you.
The state gives us aid, and for the last 3 years, the state aid, the allocated state aid was not deposited. Pension contributions that were taken out of police officers' pays were not contributed to this fund. We must pay this. This doesn't say, let me finish. This doesn't say that we have to pay this. This says that you elect line 13 and we send this back and then we pay it when we have the money.
Let me ask you a question. Does everybody at the table understand fully the MMOs?
Has to be voted on tonight.
Does everybody understand them?
Yes, it does.
Okay, ladies,
This is why you're in the trouble that you're in now. Because you keep tabling things. This is a routine ministerial thing. Can't be tabled tonight, I'm telling you right now. I can't table it.
I hope the
You
other.
table it. All you're doing is electing line 13, and I send the paper back. That's all you're doing.
I understand.
Doesn't say we're saying.
Everybody.
You can change it at any point.
Understand the MMO, okay? What I'm going to try to do, if we can't get someone out here before the 30th to help us understand this, we will meet the deadline, Paula. We do not need Mr. McLean to come in on if we have to call a special meeting just to pass this. It will get passed by the 30th.
Madam President, it's very easy to explain. Mr. McLean explained it, and I can explain it. A minimum municipal obligation is what the state takes taxpayers' money and pays the borough to fund the pension fund. The police officers take money and deny. Let me finish.
Everybody be quiet and let the solicitor explain.
You have to take this. We have not paid it in 3 years.
His name is John McLean. That's the only one should be speaking on this issue.
John, can you explain?
Well, yes, as I said before, there are various, your pension plan, the actuary every year must calculate how much money needs to be.
Is because we brought the chief back.
Reconvenes again. This is a simple, routine, administrative procedure. You're picking either the high, the middle, or the low figure. And they are recommending the high figure because we are so far behind. To postpone this and call another meeting, and then if by chance they can't meet with us before September 30th, then you lose your state allocation. We're already on the brink.
We'll have a meeting before the 30th, one way or another to pass.
This is ridiculous. No town does this. Pass it. We owe the money.
It's not whether, it's not just passing.
Madam President.
This is ridiculous.
You gotta understand that, because there are some things that's working behind this because it's different. We're only covering 2 people with these pensions that are active. The rest of the people are already retired. But the active people, there is something you need to know about this, and he needs to come out and explain it to you.
This is
and
crazy.
He will, because he's obligated to meet with us. And all I'm saying is, give yourself a chance and give everybody else that don't understand it a chance. The man is obligated to come out. You can bring NIR. He can come out and explain to you all of your, just like John said, their meetings. Matter of fact, they have probably contacted, because they contact you every year before you have to pass your minimum obligation to come out to present what has happened for the year. So we may not know it, but they have contacted us. And I know that because I've been part of this plan for a while. Tom Anderson has retired, but there is another man that he will gladly come out here anytime you want him to.
I'm sure he will, but this is simple, routine, ministerial.
Mabel, you have a question?
What I don't understand, why do we have to, go through all this? Why can't we just solve it tonight?
You can.
Here's what I
can.
Why?
We talking about the funds now. Okay, to pass it under stipulation of Mr. Anderson comes out here before the 30th, way before the 30th, as soon as you can get it, to explain everything to everybody.
Or how about if he can't, a letter of writing, a letter of explanation. I'm sure he can come out, but we can't guarantee. We don't know if he's on vacation or not. It's INR.
It doesn't matter. There's actually people that are handling our money.
Well, if I can, Madam President, I think we're talking about a couple different things at the moment. If the guy comes out, he can explain your pension plan in full. He's going to tell you the same thing I'm telling you about what the MMO is. So your decision you have to make. You can spend hours with somebody talking about your pension.
And you still got to make a decision.
Right, and let me just kind of give everybody with the recommendation that came along with the cover letter, with this from Anderson. They're going to come out and they're going to recommend to you that you do pay the highest amount. Because they have indicated that the contributions were not put in the past for whatever reason.
For whatever reason,
yeah.
We don't want to hear. Yeah.
All right. So just to give you an idea of what you're choosing between, because it's really not. It's a lot of money, but it's not.
Yeah.
The low, like for instance, for the police plan, would be $78,000. The medium is $99,000, and the high is $109,000. So those are the three numbers that you're being asked to pick from. Your pension consultants are recommending to you that you pick the 109 one. Because basically, and what Ms. Gray said is correct, they're saying you've only been making the minimum payments. If you want to try to close this gap, we recommend that you pick the high one.
So that's what you said at the beginning. So I think so that we just still pick the high one.
Patricia. Afford the high one.
Patricia,
we don't have a choice.
We will be.
Take a roll call.
Sure.
Roll call first. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm asking, just in case whosoever coming to explain this, don't come. What would be the consequence for the borough?
Well, you would, if you don't select your minimum municipal obligation and announce it this month, the state gives you money also on top of all this.
We could lose that.
You could lose that state aid. That's a possibility. You would, the auditor every 3 years does a audit of your pension plans, and the auditor, there could be a finding from the auditor, which is like a penalty from the auditor. So I certainly strongly recommend that you have to take some action by September the 30th. And keep in mind too, when we're talking about these amounts, this is not to be paid this year. These amounts would have to be paid into the pension fund by the end of next year, end of 2015. So I know we're in a critical budget period right now, but remember, you'll have the ability to plan for this and budget for whatever number you select in your 2015 budget.
I have really did we pay what we voted on last year?
I don't know whether we've made the contribution this year or not.
You did not make a contribution last year. I deposited the state. I deposited the state allocation.
We voted last year for 2014. Was 2014's paid this year? Because if it's not, you're not getting those state aid.
You have been audited, and it has been found in the audit that the funds were misappropriated and they were not deposited. That's what the audit says. It hasn't been deposited.
Wait a minute, Mr. McLean, there's two motions on the floor, guys.
I mean, different things. What in September of 2013, presumably you designated an MMO.
Right.
That's through the end of this year, so it's not due yet.
Correct.
Okay.
But if it's not paid by the 30th, it's not going to be.
No, that's not, no. You have to just vote to submit this, certify this by the 30th.
When I sat through the audit, I know what I'm talking about. I'm tired of being told that I'm wrong when I'm the one that was only in there myself. So I know what I'm talking about. I know this pension back and forwards because I'm telling you, you need somebody to come out here and explain this pension to everyone. Because this pension is on the borough. The borough is carrying this pension.
This has nothing to do with that.
I'm not, yes, it does.
Jeanette, that's what the motion entailed.
To table it, to bring.
Now,
What?
to pass the MMO under the stipulation that the invested people come out by September 30th
Every time we
and
pass
explain
something
it to everybody on council.
No, we're not doing a stipulation. If y'all want to do a
You can't
stipulation,
guarantee
that's what
that.
y'all, but every time y'all do a stipulation, y'all don't follow through on the stipulation. I don't really care. You know what, this pension can break this borough.
All you're doing is voting to elect line 13.
You're not.
And
That's
pay it.
not all what
But
you're doing
yes, it
because-
is.
No, it's
You
not.
can have the pension people come out and explain what a simple pension is at any time.
And not learning.
You need to do this by the 30th.
Do whatever y'all want.
This is a simple matter. It's not complicated.
And the knowledge.
Pay the pension.
Whatever she's saying, I've been the chief executive on this.
Well, and you should not have been.
No, the president.
You had a, no, the borough manager is. That's
Pensions being
what
ready for state employees.
and you acted as borough manager, unfortunately. That's why we're in this mess.
We just.
vote on this here,
All right, let's bring the first motion and we got to vote on.
Okay, the first motion, it was tabled.
Okay,
Okay, that takes precedence over everything.
okay.
So
we're
can
gonna
we get a
vote.
roll call vote on the table? We got a second on the table.
Vote to table the motion, Mrs. Van Auken.
I second it, yes.
Mrs. Prey,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
No,
What was that?
no.
Mrs. Kamara,
No.
Mr. Brundage.
No.
Mr. Muser,
No.
Mr. Lesher.
No.
Okay.
Okay, the second on is on the motion, under the stipulation. Under the stipulation,
Which we're gonna file through it.
and we're gonna follow through it.
Can the stipulation be either they explain it in writing or come out or set a date, because if they don't, if they can't come out by the 30th, they can give you something in writing.
By the 30th.
That they can give you something in
It's going
writing?
to be by the 30th.
Let's do it by the 30th.
Yeah, get it over with. Blow it out.
Okay, you have, what you're voting for, the motion is,
We'll check back with Colwyn in a little bit, maybe, but check out this guy doing an awesome dead-on Randy Savage and Macho Man Randy Savage impression.
My pickup to ask me stuff. She don't even know you. She come to my pickup to ask me about my and I told her, get the fuck out of here. Just like your husband.
I hope you're proud of yourself.
Well, that's right. She comes to my pickup, I go to her leave. And you're a worthless Patello. That's in the camera. You're a worthless Patello.
Why don't you do yourself a favor?
Hey, I ain't worried about you and I ain't worried about nobody else here. I'm not worried about nobody here because I can pretty well take care of myself.
Well, keep it up. You're taking
You
care of
think you're
yourself.
bad enough, Mr. Patello, you give it hell. Because I won't take your shit, Patello.
Oh, take your shit, Patello. Oh, yeah. If you think you got what it takes, buddy, you give it hell, Patello. Oh, yeah.
I don't care. Patello's an asshole. And he is. He's an asshole. This old lady come over to my pickup and tried to ask me where the symbol, the things I got in my pickup was, where I got them. I said, I can't believe you bitch, you come over here to ask me.
He called his wife a bitch for asking him where he got his car decoration.
Come on. And I told her to get the hell out. You come over to me. I didn't go to you, bitch.
Oh, yeah, Hogan. You came over to me. I didn't come to you, bitch.
He's a bitch. I'll say it like it is. I think she's a bitch.
She's a bitch. You give it hell, Patello. You give it hell, buddy.
Junkyard people. I'm glad he's taking a picture. He got my picture. Christmas to you guys. You know? You're a fucking asshole. Look in the mirror. Well, I ain't got one here, but no, you're a fucking asshole. You're an asshole. You hear that? You got that right there? Just like your son Mike is an asshole. Just like that dude. He's some bitch true.
All because she asked him where he got his car ornament. You're an ass, White Patello. Can't take it. All right. Now let's check back in with our friends in the Colwyn borough. This is the meeting after when the president, Patricia something or other, was voted out following that secret meeting the night before. If you guys, I don't know how much inside baseball you guys follow on these videos, or if you just like to, you know, listen to them shout over each other like me. But, you know, there's the backstory. There's the lore if you want it.
I didn't have a credit card for the borough.
Come on.
I don't have a credit card. I was never used. Never used. Was it ever used by me?
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A brief moment of silence for the sick and deceased of the borough of Colwyn. You may be seated. All right. Can we have a roll call vote?
Mayor Blue?
Here.
Mr. McBlain?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Right on the pulpit.
And are a resident.
Okay.
They are employees of the borough of Colwyn.
That comes this year. No, I didn't ask Paul. I asked him. Yeah, there we go again.
I have my papers here. It's somewhere in my papers. I believe it's 26 something. 25-2. It's in my.
Thank you, Miss Paul.
It's in my papers here somewhere, Mister. I got so many papers.
Thank you very much. I am so sick of Paula pulling y'all strings.
Go ahead.
I'm so sick of that. Can y'all be men?
I said it's somewhere in my papers here, Mr. Williams. Look at all my papers.
When I ask you a question, I just want to speak to you.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, and just like if I ask Mayor Blue, shut up, Blue.
Come on, guys.
This is what I'm saying. When I ask a question, I'm sure everybody else here, if they want to ask from their council people, they want to answer from y'all, not from Paul.
I understand.
And this is the whole thing. You know, I mean, it might have been screwed up before, but it's like chaotic now.
I understand.
Crazy. And why? Because this woman couldn't get a job back in Darby as a dog catcher if she did it for free. And y'all just let her run roughshod over y'all. Y'all do whatever the hell she tells you. And she does, Freddie, and you need to stop it. Because the next time I catch you in and miss car in the afternoon when that woman should be crossing these kids, I'm gonna take pictures and I'm gonna post them. You don't even you holler about some people not doing their job. You sitting there with a woman not doing her job.
And getting paid for it.
And getting paid every week. I'm there every morning at 10 minutes, 6:45, 7, to put my granddaughter on the bus. That woman never gets out that car. Never. And she has another person there that's supposed to be helping her, and she's sitting in the car. What's up with this? Are we making this
try to do the right thing, or we making this a black and white issue. Because I know for a fact, you want to get rid of 3 black people, but you're not messing with the white people. And that's wrong. That is definitely wrong. Now, if you want to go to the ethics committee, let's go to it on that. That's wrong.
I understand, Mr. Williams.
You know, and Freddie, I've known you for how many years?
A long time, man.
And you've been trying to get on this council for how many years?
I ran for office once. I ran for office once.
You've
been
running to this girl, running your mouth for almost 30 years that I know of.
Let me tell you how my political career got started in Kyle. They took the old football field and they turned it into a dump. And I brought the state in here to shut it down against some of my personal friends, okay? Because they were misled they were misled, okay? They were misled. That is how my political career, where my activist career started. And I cleaned the borough up. I used to clean the whole creek from one end to the other, and I used to make sure Kyle got super duper clean.
All right, Freddie.
Okay.
If you want to clean up something, what you need to do is clean the
That's what I
behind
did.
your house.
That's what I did.
First.
Let me tell you something. I have people that get paid every day of the week to walk behind me and pick papers up out of this whole neighborhood. Out of this whole neighborhood. People that I pay. People that I pay. Do you do that? Do you do that? No, you don't. No, you don't.
All right, guys, come on.
You don't know what I do.
Come on.
Business life in the council.
All right, that's enough. Come on, guys.
Business, man.
And I told you, I'm taking.
Ready, Mr. Williams? That's enough.
That's 5 minutes are up.
All right, next. Who's on the list next?
Mr.
Let's move on. Mr. Lindsay.
This is my first time coming to a council meeting.
Go ahead, sir. Stand up, please.
Come on up.
Come on up. We want to make you feel welcome here.
You got bad names,
Oh, okay. I understand.
I don't know if you touched on any subjects yet, because I'm late for this meeting.
Mhm.
Have you?
Well, 6:30, it's a 2-part meeting, Mr. Lindsay.
Okay.
6:30 is we're combining it. We used to have 2 meetings a month. Now we voted to have 1, which is better. The first part of the meeting is the committee reports. We did the committee reports, and that was concluded. And 7:30 is our general part of the meeting. We have there's information for you too on the table if you like to take some. Yeah, this way you.
If I can reserve the right to speak after you touched on the subject.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Not during the meeting.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Just to clarify there,
Yeah.
this is the beginning portion of the meeting will be public comment. There is the agenda there. So if you want to take a look at the agenda and make comments.
Do it. I did. I sent.
As our bar manager, go ahead.
Mr. Clark, we have been asking the fire company for an audit report of all of the finances, of your minutes. We have been asking for that since, I believe, August, and we have not had it.
Let her.
We have had numerous issues of checks being written, as you know, which is why you are the president. Okay? Checks being written to family members. Let me answer the question, please. It is not against the law.
Well, why can't our solicitor answer?
Because he didn't do it. I did. I sent $10,000 back to the state auditor general and I have had numerous contact with the state fire commissioner's office and with the state auditor general, and I
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
I think I'll wrap it there, guys. I'll see you tomorrow night where Zach and Ben will be back, and I don't know who we'll be talking to yet because the West Memphis 3 discussion got rescheduled. So expect that in the coming weeks. For now, I'm just going to end it there. And like I said, Zach and Ben will be, and maybe some more people will be back. We'll be there tomorrow night. So, all right, later.